What's this doing here? Empire of the Void? Walsor of the Void? That sounds really interesting. This sounds like a good book. I should check it out. But that's not what we're talking about today. Actually, what we're talking about is very, very far away from science fiction and fantasy, regardless of how good the science fiction and fantasy is. Homemade coffee. Nothing like homemade coffee you made at home with your own resources. This from a K-Cup, though. And I don't even know if this is relevant, because what I'm talking about today is a movie I haven't seen yet, but I will in just a little bit. You see, I saw an ad on Facebook the other day for this new movie Homestead, or at least I thought it was a movie. The thing is, in the ad it had a review from some news outlet, but it referred to this movie as a series. Which isn't like super crazy. A lot of movies or franchises have spin-offs or sequels, prequels, so a series on its own wasn't that far out there. But the thing is, this is a movie produced by Angel Studios, who has some kind of claim to fame now because of movies like Sound of Freedom, Sound of Hope, and Cabrini, and last month, or like 2 months ago, Bonhoeffer, which I really wish I had seen. This is a pretty small indie studio, and it's pretty ballsy to announce something as a series of movies already. So I went to IMDb, I searched Homestead, and looked at, connections, and there was nothing. There were no sequels in the works, at least listed under connections. But then I went to the writers, and I noticed something very strange. For this feature film, the writers were listed as staff writers, which is something usually only for TV shows. So now I'm very confused, and I thought, okay, maybe this is a TV show that was turned into a movie, kind of like Moana had been done recently. And most Disney sequels from the 90s and early 2000s that went straight to DVD. Which is never a very good sign. But that's not actually the case with this one. I mean, it kind of is, but not really. This movie is airing simultaneously in theaters as a 2-hour movie, and also on Angel Studios' streaming platform as a TV show. Now, I think this is kind of a bad move from a studio that's made a lot of good moves recently. They've been very smart about their advertising and production and getting some actual quality movies out there. I mean, Sound of Freedom outperformed Indiana Jones. This could be a matter of pride or hubris, which is very ironic for a Christian film studio. But you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. So, I'll be back in 2-3 hours. Actually, my showtime's not for a few hours. So, I'll be back later tonight, which for you is only about 30 seconds from now, to do a full review of the film. Does it work being stitched together from 2 TV episodes? Does it feel super awkward and janky? I'm going to bet on that, but hopefully, I'm wrong. Nothing like seeing a movie at 2:30 on a Friday. To answer my last question, it didn't work. Now, the 2 episodes edited into a single movie thing wasn't a blatant failure. It flowed well enough, but there was a very clear midpoint where the first episode ended and the second episode began. The story continued naturally enough, but it felt more like a secondary plot more than a continuation of an overarching story. But first, let's get into what this movie was actually about. Homestead is a movie about preppers. A nuclear bomb detonates off the coast of LA, and a rich guy has all of his friends, family, and security team come to his fancy mansion in the middle of Colorado. And from there, we follow their trials and tribulations as refugees come in. They feel the threat of outside forces trying to take their resources, and generally stuff like that. And that's really all I can say about the plot. Because again, this is a TV show turned into a movie, and the TV show is carrying on after this, which I will get to more on. Right off the bat, I gotta say, I feel bad for the rating I'm going to give this one. I really wanted to enjoy this one. I feel like while there are plenty of Christian films out there, there aren't many good ones. And the ones that are really have to hide their values. Angel Studios has been doing a great job of making more mainstream, larger release Christian films. There are some other studios that make films like this, like I Still Believe and Forever My Girl, and then there's Mel Gibson making movies like Hacksaw Ridge. But for every I Still Believe, there's about 5 Jesus Revolutions and 20 Kirk Cameron films. And I think most people going to see Homestead are people like me that want more Christian films. And thankfully, in this regard, it does a good job. With Christian films, it usually comes down to how God and Christianity or prayer is discussed, and it feels very janky. It doesn't feel like real dialogue ever. In this movie, thank God, it does. It feels very real, very natural, and the way it's integrated into the plot works well enough. Except at the very, very, very end. Which we'll get back to, because I have plenty to say about the ending of this movie. Where the movie, I gotta say, really lost me, is it is a product of its budget. The movie opens up with the nuclear bomb exploding, and thanks to creative cinematography and lighting, it's communicated well enough. But after that opening, we don't really get any visual evidence that the world is ending the way the characters say it is. And the longer this goes on with no real visual information of the deterioration of society, it stops feeling like an apocalyptic movie and more feels like a retelling of Waco, Texas. So at the end of the movie, when the SWAT team shows up and a government official and everything actually seems pretty fine, I started questioning, like, is the rug being pulled out from under me? Which would have been very ballsy. But it wasn't. Everything is really given at face value. I kind of feel ripped off, honestly. And while the movie ends on a very optimistic note, it ends with no real resolution of any of the story arcs. And then, to make matters worse, it plays a trailer for the TV show before the credits. Like, this isn't like a post-credits thing or mid-credits or anything. It's just, the movie ends, it says the end, and then it plays a trailer, and then there's a message from one of the actors from the studio to be like, hey, check out our TV show online now, and then the credits are rolled. It's very, very strange, and left a kind of bad taste in my mouth. Now, I don't want to end this review on a bad note, because it wasn't, I mean, it was a bad movie, but it wasn't a terrible movie. Really, the saving grace is Neil McDonough, I don't know how to, Band of Brothers guy. He was pretty solid in it. He's a super chill dude to begin with. So I like seeing his movies. Really, the whole cast does a fine job with this one. There are just moments, especially the military moments, where the dialogue is just kind of cringy. And again, this was a movie I was excited to see. It's a story I think is very interesting, and I think is a great what-if scenario, and definitely something to consider. I'm not telling you the world is going to end. I don't think it's going to. I'm not really scared. But, prepping is always, a good thing to have in the back of your mind. Have some seeds ready, just in case. Learn how to farm. Learn how to be self-sufficient. They're always good skills to have. But no, I'm not scared. I'm not taking this movie as prophecy. Oh, that was another thing. I can't believe I forgot about this. I mean, I can because it was so underdeveloped. There's these little hints that one of the young children is telepathic or has visions of the future or something, and it's so out of nowhere and so strange. It was a huge waste of time, and was probably worse than this whole, maybe they're all just insane people possible storyline thing. But anyway, if you are interested in stuff like this, stories like this, apocalyptic stuff, prepper stuff, I do actually recommend this awesome book trilogy, 1 Second After, which is in my opinion, a much more plausible apocalyptic scenario, but also a very interesting insight into how everything would break down and how civilization would come back together after that, if it can't come back at all. And that is my review for Homestead. I give this movie 2 out of 5 stars. I hope the series is going to do better. I'm not going to watch it. I don't feel any need to after seeing this movie. But if the show is better, great. Hopefully the show is better. Hopefully people really enjoy it. Hopefully Angel Studios can continue making movies, but make them, please, better than this.